I think they're on the international level. I don't think people necessarily talk about countries versus another country so much. I don't think that we would receive any European country as like trying to figure out if it's really from a country or another. I think we are concerned with those questions because of our own identity issues that have run for decades.
Well, and our relationship with the films.
And our relationship with the films. I think we're closer, so we want to determine just about everything about them. I think on the international level, they are very clearly Canadian. I don't think anyone doubts that Denis Coté is French-Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone doubts that Animal from this year's film
Yeah.
was that. I don't think that anyone doubts that Bruce McDonald is the cool Canadian guy to have at your festival. I really don't think there's any doubt around that. Maybe there were before. I have to say in my time, or Guy Madden is clearly embedded in our art flag. You know, I think it's very clear.
I think with the exception of a few national cinemas, I don't think people see it as a sort of entity and I think Canadian stuff is so diverse. I mean, when you look at the 9, 10, 11, 20, et cetera, filmmakers who frequently, and there's more than that, who frequently play at international festivals. You know, I don't, even in terms of filmmakers whose aesthetics and interests would probably be similar, or at least they'd share a lot of stuff. You know, is there a wider range in terms of aesthetics and subject matter than what you see in a Denis Coté movie and a Guy Madden film? Yeah. You know, the cinema, our cinema is so diverse that it floats that. A lot of the constructs when people think about like French cinema, they see it as like you know, it starts from a very specific point, like the first French film they saw, like whether it's a New Wave film or a Cocteau film or, you know, that's cinema de papa or whatever, you know, that classic French cinema. It's a very diverse kind of cinema itself, but you know, it just sort of affixes itself to this one notion, and most cinemas don't, you know, it just doesn't exist. You know, there's a wild diversity within it. I mean, you know, you can pick any cinema.
With national cinemas that have such a specific, very recognizable canon through each decade, like as you say, you use the French as a good example. Every decade is so specific and recognizable for the kind of films and the filmmakers that heralded at the time. Whereas I don't think we have this kind of recognition of people being able to name the period or the wave that that someone would be talking about a Canadian film. And maybe something good comes out of that, of not knowing exactly all the time the canons, or not having them so precise, might liberate the filmmakers of today, of the past 15 years. I don't know how to grade it in terms of years, but or of the future, to be a bit more free and really don't feel like they need to necessarily always respond to a cinema of the past or people's expectations of their own cinema.
Well, I think it's you know, it's also not having a monolithic cultural identity and assumptions and like sort of overarching myths that sort of construct everything. I mean, I think that's a large part of it. Also, I mean, I think sadly it's also in a lot of cases, some people haven't seen that much, so they're not working within that kind of spectrum. They're not always referencing classic Canadian films. I've seen some that, like, you know, do that quite seriously, but a lot, you know, there's no specific reference to the ancestors or the films that preceded the specific title. I think the classic quote about whether Canadians remember their film history is from Piers Handling. He opened an essay by saying, like, talking to a Canadian about their own film history is like talking to an amnesiac. They don't remember what they've seen, they don't remember that they've seen it, and they don't identify it as Canadian.